There we go. Good. Okay, so let's start with our, let's start with a study group of the tensegrity assisted therapy, the course that Leonid Bloom and Mariana Barreto built, and they already taught it online. So we bought the course afterwards, after being directly held. And we are just trying to study it by ourselves, but in a group it's easier. So let's see what comes out of this group. The main idea is that I think you saw the rules, the guiding rules of the group. So I'm not in charge of anything. I'm just trying to facilitate the process to go on. If anyone wants to have this role of being the facilitator, and I hope some of you will do it once in a while, because I would appreciate it, you just tell me, and I'll give you the access to the Zoom link and everything. And the idea is that we discuss these subjects that we appreciate now, that we are starting to appreciate. And then from here we can go, I don't know where, in our study and in our explorations within this biotensegrity theme. My suggestion is that we present ourselves to start with, who we are, what is our interest to be here, and from there we start then to explore the course. You agree?
Yeah.
Good. Do you want me to start? Wait, just because Teresa is not able to connect. Tenta link email. Teresa is trying to connect, sorry. She's writing something. Do you want to start presenting yourselves before me? Noise. Okay. She's in a meeting in the school, so she cannot connect. Okay.
Okay.
So, do you want me to start presenting myself? Okay. So I'm Nuno João. I'm a Pilates teacher. I consider myself an exercise specialist, whatever that means. And I'm doing several things at the same time now, always, but now in particular. So I'm studying biotensegrity and tensegrity in general, with embodied biotensegrity and with tensegrity archival, biotensegrity archival group from Stephen Levin, led by Susan Lowen-Solozano. And I'm studying with that group. I started studying there. I'm also doing a Feldenkrais certification now. I'm studying, I'm on the second year, my second year. And I'm always studying what I do, my Pilates practice. So I'm always writing and studying, connecting fields. That's what I like, to connect fields within my main field of practice, which is Pilates and traditional Pilates and kettlebell. But Pilates is my main rail where I drive myself, and from where I see, I try to look at different views on my passage and try to integrate them to see if they fit views of the body and views of movement of the human being in general. and in general, they fit in this particular rail. So I don't have exactly a goal of developing my knowledge in anything or Pilates. It just happens. I also teach a course in Pilates together with Miguel and Anna. She's not present, but she's present. And I have a studio, Pilates studio, where I work with Frida and other people, Tiago, Ani at the moment. So this is what I do. This is where I am. And I decided to start this study group because I got very enthusiastic about the course and the content of the course. But it's easier to study with other people instead of by yourself. So I invited you and some other people that are not here, but they can join us whenever they want to make this a bigger contribution from everyone. You want to present yourself, Frida?
Yes, sure. Good. So my name is Frida and I work with Nuno here in Lisbon. I'm a former dancer and I've been teaching Pilates for maybe 12 years or so. First while also working as a dancer, and now since I think 4 years back full-time as a Pilates teacher. So my movement background is lots of dancing, different styles, and different alternative techniques that is common that dancers use to optimize their body and stay balanced and strong. So Pilates is one of those, Franklin method, Feldenkrais, Klein technique, and many, many more. And I think, yeah, Pilates is of course what has made most sense for me. However, I've always felt like something's missing. I've been searching for more and always like digging deeper and continuously trying, not only through Pilates teachers and Pilates practice, but from different angles to deepen my understanding of the body and movement and Pilates and why it works and how and yeah, and it's getting there more and more, but also the feeling of the more you learn, the more you feel like you don't know. So it's just this ongoing process, and it's amazing. It makes it interesting and fun. And the latest course I've done was with Carol Almond, Pilates by AIM, which Nuno introduced me to, and I'm very, very grateful. That's really the best one so far. For me, it's answered a lot of questions, and it's really, really interesting. And I guess biotensegrity is like new to me in the study of like going so deep that it's like really scientific and down to the core of things. But I started looking into fascia quite many years ago, and that started explaining some things to me in what I felt when I was moving. And then I've been doing a workshop with tensegrity in Pilates for a Pilates teacher called Amy Taylor Alpers. That is very interesting. It's an old workshop, but yeah, it was an eye opener also. So I think that's it for now. I think that's enough.
Okay, very good. Miguel?
Hi, my name is Miguel. I'm from Porto, Portugal. And well, I was listening to you guys, and I just have to say I resonate with you guys. And most of the things you said, it's some of the things I have been, it's been my life. So I'm changing from the academic field of training directed to the results, to the changing to the Pilates field, and this change opened my life and opened my mind and opened even my understanding and integrated my awareness in my body, in movement in general. And from that day on, when I met Nuno, this was always intriguing. And I have to say, I am always studying and trying to find some, I don't know if I'm trying to find the answer, but trying to understand better and better, probably to know myself and to help others. So, and one course after the other, one study, one book after the other, well, it led me here to tensegrity and now to biotensegrity, to say the most approached words to same fields of studying. And honestly, it's what I like to live in, and to trying to, how may I say the words, well, this is a field of study that I find it is more approach to understanding how we live, how we move, how we can help others, how we can cure ourselves or feel better. So this has been my direction. At the time me and Anna, we have a Pilates studio, and we are trying to, how do I say this, integrate this knowledge in the Pilates and trying to figure out if, okay, is this the same things that he was thinking about when he elaborated this method, when he elaborated this apparatus? Does this make any sense? And well, in my understanding and conjugating with some things that Frida told about the amend method and the knowledge she passed to us as well, because we attended the course, I think things are very related. And I'm not saying we are finding the truth of anything, but this is a never-ending studying and never-ending sharing. And I agree with you, the best way to understand this new science that is emerging, is very recent, is to share and study in groups and using our body, because it's absolutely fundamental. So this led me here, and this led me to the great relation I have with Nuno and Frida as well, indirectly. So here we are, trying to share.
Very good. Can I just say something that you both mentioned before Elena presents itself? You both said, Frida said, there's something still missing in my practice. And these fields of study like Pilates by AIM and now this biotensegrity, they kind of I can see that there's an answer there. And Miguel just said the same thing, more or less. And then he asked that he said that he and Anna, they are trying to figure out and questioning themselves, is this what Joe Pilates was thinking about when he built his own method? And I've been thinking a lot about, in the conversations I have with the tensegrity group, biotensegrity group, about the experiential and the scientific knowledge that we have. And when the scientific knowledge talks to the experiential knowledge, to what we experiment and to what we feel, then there's a light opening up. There's some light there, because there's another author. She's a dancer, she's a ballet dancer, and she teaches ballet, and her name is Cynthia Roses Tema. Roses Best Tema. She presented in one of the biointegrity things. She wrote a book called Floating Bones, and she talks right in the beginning about the inner perspective and the outer perspective. The inner perspective being the experiential, and to a classical dancer, not many people in her days, because she's not young anymore. In her days, a classical dancer was taught to do shapes and motions. So everything was from the outer perspective. There's an outer reading, like in Pilates, we say that we have the repertoire, and what many people teach and learn is repertoire, shapes, movements, but there's no, how do I get to that motion? How do I get to that shape? What is my inner perspective? What is my inner experience that tells me that I'm in that shape? Because at the end, that's what we have. We have inner experiences that tells us where we are and what we are doing. And biointegrity in particular, for me, gives me the scientific that matches, talks, enlightens my inner experience, my experimental. And that's why I so avidly embraced it, and that's why I'm studying it and trying to make more people study, because it does speak to what I sense, to what I perceive in myself and others when I see movement. Yeah?
I agree.
Okay, good. Elena, do you want to present?
Hello.
Hello. You can present
So,
yourself in Portuguese if you want, and we will translate or not.
ok,
If you want some translation, I'll give you the main things that Helena will say.
ok. Então, sou Maria Helena, já trabalho com Pilates mais ou menos há 7 anos, desde que conheci o Nuno.
She works
E desde
with
aí
Pilates
tenho
for 10
vindo,
years.
desde aí tenho vindo a mudar, da pouca experiência que eu ainda tinha no mundo do trabalho, rapidamente fui restringindo a minha área quase exclusivamente para o Pilates. Neste momento tenho estúdio de Pilates, e tudo aquilo que eu fui aprendendo
Helena,
e usando.
you don't look to the telephone. Não olhes para o telefone, olha em frente,
Ok.
guia, e fala
Ok.
sem olhar para nós. Não te estampes. She's
Ok.
driving, she's looking at us. So look at the road and talk without looking to us,
Ok.
because we accept that.
Ok.
Look at us. Look in front.
Ok. This?
Não olhes para nós. Olha,
Ok.
olha para a estrada. Isso.
Tá.
Isso.
Tive muitos anos a trabalhar com a Ana e com o Miguel no
You work
espaço
with Ana and
deles.
Miguel for several years.
Fui acompanhando as formações, e daí a grande evolução, na minha opinião, e que me fez dar o salto e trazer esse conhecimento para Valdecâmara, para lugares onde ainda não existe assim tanto trabalho de pilates de acordo com aquilo que para mim faz sentido e que fui percebendo que as pessoas gostavam e também sentiam que era o que precisavam. Basicamente é isso.
Okay. She took Pilates from Oporto, where she worked with Miguel and Ana, to a more secluded city in the center, close to Porto, more or less close to Porto, where there's no physical activity or Pilates or anything with expression, and she's trying to bring the new things that she's learning with basically with us, because she worked with us and then she did our certification, all the certifications from the 7 years she worked with Miguel and Ana. Good. So we're going to go on in English. Don't look at the phone, or
Okay.
I will cut you from the conversation. Don't look at us, please. Não olhes para nós.
Ok.
Ok? Senão eu desligo-te a câmera.
Tá, mas eu vou só trocar de sítio, portanto
Ok.
vou desligar só um bocadinho a câmara.
Go. She's arriving. She will change places and we'll change camera. Okay, so let's focus on what brought us here, and it's the course. Miguel, I think you already went through all the course once at least.
Yeah.
I also went at least once through all the course and several times in parts of it, through parts of it. You didn't went to the course, right, Frida?
No, so I'm here, enthusiastic,
Good.
maybe contributing with some questions, but I haven't started the course yet. No.
Okay, so today what I thought was good was to finish in the most in 1 hour, no more than that. So we stop at 7:30, unless there's a very interesting conversation going on. And today we're going to see just the first line of the first chapter. The first chapter is tensegrity, and within that chapter they have what is tensegrity. It's the first video that we're going to talk about. Then what is a bodywork therapy, then loads distribution, the tensegrity body, and how to build a tensegrity. I posted, so there's another video here, how to build a tensegrity, an easy one, but I posted the one from Susan Lowen, the Solozano, in her YouTube channel. And I think it's very, very important to, if we are discussing this, if we are studying this, we need to have at least one of these, if not more, because we can couple them and see that there are beautiful things going on. So this is very important to study and to have one. Okay. Yes.
Yes, I have
Good. You
one.
don't need to bring it. You don't need to bring it.
This is the one you gave us.
Oh yes, it's the one I gave you. Yes.
It's the one it's in the studio. So
Okay.
right.
Good. But it's good to make one, because when you make one, you understand the amount of the first time I made mine, the first time I tried to do it, I just couldn't stretch because I'm not doing with elastic bands. I'm doing with thread, cotton thread. When I tried to pull it, everything was boom, pumping at the last. I was going to connect the last one, and I had to put a lot of tension in all the system. There was a little slack, and the minute I did that, everything went away. But like I had to go away, you know. So I tried it several times, and then I understood that I have to have these hooks here deeper in order to hold all the tension that is built within the system when you try to put the last link, when you try to close the system.
Okay.
So it's very interesting to build one. Okay, at least one. So we are going to see the first tensegrity. What is tensegrity? And you want to say something, Miguel? Right on top of everything, or? My idea was to ask each of us what you think is tensegrity. What do you have to say about tensegrity at the moment where you are? What you understand about tensegrity? What is for you tensegrity?
It's a very, very, very difficult question to answer in a short sentence, to say the least.
Mm-hmm.
Well, at this moment,
sorry,
okay.
Miguel, you still have a sound thing. Maybe you're talking too close to the microphone. I don't know.
I don't think it's going to be better than this.
It's not always, but sometimes there's a interference.
Let's see.
Okay.
That's a mistake I make, because normally I speak too loud and there's no need because
there's no need to speak too loud.
Well, one of the things I'm technical language being just, okay, we can say silly things and some mistakes because the technical language can sometimes be off our axis at the moment when we are trying to simplify things. So one of the things I understand when I study this, I read a lot and experienced a lot and trying to integrate some terms, some terms and some concepts in my explorations, it defines me in some way that tensegrity explains the dynamic behavior, okay? And that's, for me, it's the biggest open window, okay? We don't talk about the leverage, we don't talk about vectors and forces and try to understand simplifications of shapes or muscles or whatever. And we are more concerned about, okay, this is the whole shape, whole body interacting in gravity in this case, but it's the dynamic behavior that matters most, okay? And that is very difficult to understand and to integrate, because at the first time we are all formatted from college and knowledge and all the anatomic books that I just read a lot, and it's a very difficult to, okay, let's forget about this all and let's start of seeing the behavior of the body, how we integrates, how we reacts, how he behaves, how he shapes, without trying to simplify, but being very simple in the observation, because that's a simple thing. If we were trying to understand all the mechanics and all the muscles that are acting in a simple motion or a simple action or a simple reaction or whatever, it's very, very, very complicated, and it would be an enormous list of things to try to understand. I have a degree in osteopathy, and one of the things that we normally tend to fall on the mistake of, okay, let's try to fix this area and forget about the main goal of osteopathy, that is to, okay, let's reestablish homeostasis. Let's try to understand how we can put the system in perfect balance. Well, that's one of the things that I tried to, and I fell on that pit, obviously. Most of the time people do, and even with another therapies. And this is the thing, the global capacity of the organization of the system, and trying to look at people in behavior, body as a system, it's different. And then tensegrity gives me some answers. Another thing I wanted to talk about, and tensegrity just opened my mind for that, is let me say this in a simple way. I'm missing my words in English. So, well, mainly is this. So, the dynamic behavior of the body, it's different, and trying to understand the overall reaction and things that are happening, it's more easy to understand in this way. Okay, that's line.
Good. You have any idea, Frida, to
Yeah, I'm gonna pick up on a couple of things and see if I can organize my thoughts to connect to what Miguel was saying. So you were talking about the dynamics, which is interesting because I was let's see if I have it here. It was from Embodied by a Tensegrity, the Facebook group, where there was a talk where Stephen Levin was talking about how, you saw it, Nuno, it was like one of the highlights.
Yeah.
He was saying that, let me see if I have, just to try and quote, rather than guess around too much.
don't think about
Yeah, so he was saying the body is a verb, not a noun.
yes.
And talking about the dynamics, how the biotensegrity is describing more the dynamics and not a structure. And I wrote that down for this meeting because I think it's very interesting, and I think it helps to make sense of it, because it's nice with those models, right? But it's not going to be directly to say, oh, that it sits here, one of those models. So it's nice. It was just very nice the way he put it, because I think it helps, and I think it was maybe something like that you were saying, Miguel. Also, another word you said a couple of times was like react or reaction. And for me, I think at this point, and something that came from the work of Carol Amond also, is really listening and waiting for reaction and responses in the body, which is really what you do a lot in dance, but maybe in like exercises. It's been, for me, in my Pilates education, earlier Pilates education, it's been a lot about like pre-tensing and activating and taking actions, rather than maybe waiting for reactions.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if it makes sense.
Yes.
Maybe it's,
For me, totally.
but I think that's a very interesting way to feel, because for me, I think it's really about a feeling, and to really listen to the body, but also if you work, for example, with the Pilates apparatus, to listen to the spring and the tension and the interplay, and to the apparatus, and feel like what kind of information you get from there and how that translates into the body, rather than fighting springs, resistance, or blocking things in the body because you're pre-tensing or over controlling. Yeah, some keywords for me at the moment is listen, and that's like within my body, but also in my teaching, like to listen to the clients and to give space, not be too like, not anticipate things.
So wait for reactions instead
Yeah,
of
yeah,
asking for
exactly.
reactions.
Yeah, yeah. So a feeling and listening, and also waiting for reactions. Yeah.
Interesting. Yes. Elena, would you like, do you want to say something about where you are in regards to biotensegrity? What do you understand about biotensegrity for you now? You may say nothing or something.
Ok, não sei muito, ou quase nada, mas de acordo com o pouco que eu vi, que li e que falei contigo, é uma forma de abordar diferente a biomecânica do nosso corpo e a sua ligação entre músculos e a estrutura, e como dizia a Frida, e acho que entendi bem, não antecipar nem condicionar o corpo e os alunos, mas sim esperar que as reações apareçam de acordo com o estímulo que se propõe dar ao corpo.
So Elena thinks that, according to what she read and talked with me and some few things that she read, that it has to do about structure, has to do with another way of seeing biomechanics in the human body and structure. And she agrees with you, Frida, about the waiting for the reaction and not having to give actions, asking for actions.
E essencialmente é isso, e penso que pode ser uma mais-valia para nós, para mim como professora, uma vez que tendemos a antecipar e a condicionar demasiado aquilo que queremos que o aluno sinta e que faça, se calhar que faça e depois que sinta, não é? Então se calhar é uma forma de, um caminho de chegar à paciência, não é?
This way, with biotensegrity, it can be a way to really wait for the reactions, to be more patient in our teaching, to understand the need to be more patient with the teaching, with our clients.
Yes.
Good. Okay, that's all. Yes, can I say some things? For me, yes, tensegrity has also to do, has mainly to do with structure. It's a model, it's a way. So tensegrity comes from, it's a way to build in architecture. There is a way to build in architecture that was the main way of building, and it was its main principle was to withstand loads, overloads. So it's a way that depends on gravity, the action of gravity. If the loads are stacked within each other in a way that gravity doesn't unbalance them, they stay there. So that was the way to build until very recently. And then these Buckminster Fuller, architect and scientist and poet, he discovered a way to build differently that doesn't depend on gravity, which is a tensegrity. So it has to do with structure, structure. So it's a way to describe structure, and it's also, this is a tensegrity. Okay, this is a tensegrity. This is a tensegrity, another tensegrity. So A tensegrity, it's a system where we have tension, the tension that withstands the structure. And we have also the compressive elements that allow the tension to be there. Although the tension is continuous throughout the system, the compression is not continuous, because the compressive elements, they don't touch each other, so they don't connect to each other directly. So this continuous, and the tension is continuous. This is what describes a tensegrity and the tensegrity principle in building. And because of this model of acquiring structure, of this map of structure, physical structure, with its properties, and with its properties mainly that come from the fact that this structure is as so, with a continuous tension, discontinuous compression. There are some properties that emerge, and they call them emergent properties. Our experience of the body, our sensed experience, tells us, and that experiential, that experience has to do when Stephen Levin found this concept. His experience was not from living as we in the body, but by doing surgery in the spine and knees and so. So he had an experience of the body, of the living body, that didn't fit the compressive model, where compression elements, like in normal buildings, touch each other and they depend on gravity. He had a different experiential from the human body that matched when he saw something like this from Buckminster Fuller and from Snelson, the guy that builds the structures. He saw the resemblance and he said, wow. And then he studied the structure tensegrity, and he found that it matched in most its properties what is happening in the human body in all levels. So in the macro level, big muscles, skin, and then in the nano level, in the cells, he's not studying that, but Ingberg, I think Ingberg, what's the name of the guy? Ingberg, I don't know. There's one guy studying mainly the cells and the interaction of the micro level in the body, where he also finds the same structure properties there. And as Frida said, and Graham Scarr says it very, very bluntly in one of his presentations, you will never find an icosahedral, one of these things, inside the human body. You will never find it. But the properties that you can infer from holding one of these things and studying one of these things, you can find them exactly in the body. So that's why these represents the structure of the body at all levels, and we can start to study the structure from a map, because the moment we open the human body, we destroy the territory, the land. So we need a map to try to see and infer, and now I think there are better ways of studying the body that don't destroy it and can see these things. That's what they are seeing now with fascia, with endoscopy, and so So for me, it has to do with structure. It doesn't exist in the human body. And that took me some time to realize, this is just a representation of properties that I can see in the body, that I can feel in the body. Yes, it has to do with dynamics, especially, but it has to do with structure. And the living structure is dynamic. Yeah. So I agree with you guys when you said, with what you said. Is there something that you took from the Miguel, from what you saw in the video that you want to comment to help Frida and Elena to see it?
To be fair, I was just trying to search with my notes because I saw it a long time ago. And
can I then just say something here?
Yeah.
Because Leonid and Mariana, they present right in this first thing, what is tensegrity? They give us another map. A map meaning this is a map. This is a way for us to orient ourselves. It's not literally there, which is the spring, one spring, normal spring. And they say that when we study the relation of structure in the macro astronomic level, we use Newton's law of gravity, attraction, blah, 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 blah. But when we have the interaction in such close dimensions, such small dimensions, like within the human body, we have to see other maps that explain what is happening there. And they use the spring and the Hooke, Robert Hooke studies on the spring to try to explain and to try to understand what happens in the body, in the human body, well, in living organisms in general. So that's another map that you need to kind of see, and you will encounter that in the video. The spring, and then the adaptation of the spring to the human body. And this is also a spring, because if I let it down, it bumps, okay, it jumps. There's a spring action here, but it's not a linear spring. One spring that we use in Pilates, it's a linear spring, and it behaves as a linear spring. The more it stretches, the stronger it gets. It doesn't happen here. There's no linear behavior here. And it has a particular behavior because of the configuration of the structure, the continuous tension, discontinuous compression. That doesn't exist in a normal continuous spring. So it's another map that you will encounter there in the video, and it's interesting to understand. And when I encounter it, I wrote a question to myself to explore, which is, so we are using continuous springs, the springs in Pilates, to interfere in the discontinuous springs within the body, because the body, it's viewed as a discontinuous spring, but we in Pilates, we are using continuous springs as the load, as the load that adds stress to the body, so it transforms the body. It made me think. So it's something that I'm trying to see how it works, and why is it better than to use weights, free weights, or some other way of movement, some other modality of movement where there's an external load interfering with the body?
Well, yeah, I think mainly I will try to explain this into, let's say, to Elena that's starting the study. I would say that the main focus is to forget about this muscle motion, because it is quoted and
Valid.
And starting to think about high myofascial tone. Okay, so this is one of the things I would like to focus on, and probably I understand it like this: seeing the structure, studying tensegrity, in fact, is a structure, and the structure behaves. So the kind of answer and behaviors of the structure are, in fact, similar to the body's behaviors. Okay, so, and the fact that you spoke about the springs, I think it's a little bit confusing now to talk about Pilates and the apparatus, but it's going to happen because we all work with that. So yeah. Sometimes it's going to happen. But the thing is, try to understand that, okay, the answer of the system is behavior is unpredictable. So in this unpredictable behavior, we don't have so much of a, we cannot simplify that much looking at Newton's laws and Newton's or anatomy notion. So I think that this is the thing. We look at the body and try to understand how it behaves in a general, trying to understand that these behaviors are emergent, they are multifactorial emergencies, and that they are unpredictable. That, for me, was very important, because normally we try to guide people to ourselves to some shapes, and we normally tend to, okay, this is happening, this is being felt as, in our way of thinking and looking at things like we did in the past. So I may give you an example. Today I was working with a student and I was asking her to, okay, let's explore these shapes, mental shapes on our body, a rounded shape and an extension shape. And one of the things I asked her was, okay, what are you feeling? What are the signs you are sensing? And if you want, you can share them to me. And what I was looking at, and I probably was trying to predict, okay, she's going to feel this and this, and her answers were exactly the opposites. So amazing. And I laughed. That's what it is. Okay. And what she is feeling, it's his own things are emerging, and his own behavior and his own body that is answering. Okay. And not my interpretation and my knowledge, ultra knowledge about, okay, she's lengthening the low back, and she was far from there. He wasn't feeling nothing in the low back. So this opens our minds. Okay, let's be more humble and let's, okay, allow things to happen the way they do and respect the unpredictable.
Thank you. Good. You have something to say, Frida?
Yeah. Well said. I like that. I think it's connected to that listening that I was talking about, that I'm also trying to really work with. I have a lot of thoughts at the same time, so I'm going to try to be organized. But I think the shapes. So when I was a dancer, and still I will always be a dancer, but when I was working as a dancer and training a lot, I always came back to the same thing, that for me, it's all about the transitions. It's not the positions, it's the transitions. That's where the dance is. And in classical, you were mentioning classical ballet before, Nuno, and in classical ballet, it's really a lot about shapes. I'm not a classical dancer, but and of course it's a lot of feeling too. You can't get away from that, but it's a lot about what it looks like and the aesthetical part of it. And in modern dance or in contemporary dance, it's more about that really deep exploration within. And sometimes the process is so important, and what comes out is a little bit more like take it or leave it. Maybe not as crowd pleasing, but it's very, very interesting for the dancers themselves, and hopefully it can also be interesting for an audience. And I had a client yesterday that was doing a roll up. So for someone who doesn't know what a roll up is, you are on the floor on your back, and you basically pick up your upper body and bend forward over your lower body. So she was in that bending forward phase with the legs long and the upper body bending forward, and then she was straightening her legs, even though she had told me she was very tight in the backside. And I was like, you don't have to straighten the legs. See what happens if you soften the knees a little bit. And she was like, yeah, it's just that I feel like if I don't straighten my legs, it's not good enough. And I was like, but that's just a line. No one cares about that line. Like, it's just a line that can look good. Oh, it's so straight. But you can feel a line internally, and that's much more interesting potentially. Yeah, and that's again more like it's the transition, because when you get to something that feels like a position, it doesn't stop there, because there's always something moving, and there's always like this continuous changing of shape. So yeah, it's really in the feeling, and the shapes can guide us because we need some kind of framework, right? So the shapes can guide us, but like you were saying also, Nuno, about repertory, it's like it gives us some kind of framework, but it's what's happening like within those, if you want to call it shapes or poses, but it's in the transitions and in the changing of shape. Yeah,
I understand what you're saying. I totally understand. Even in the same motion, like in doing the roll up, there's a transition from being lying down to halfway, and in the transitions of the shape within one movement, you can also see what you're talking, right?
Yeah. Yeah, and I was just trying to connect to what Miguel was saying about, I don't remember now how you said it, but I hope it makes sense in yeah, after what you said.
I believe in the end, a lot of things are not making sense, but they will.
Yeah, maybe it will all come to.
That's all the purpose of this talk.
Yeah.
Yes. Can I just say something that came to my mind while you were talking? And once during my studies, my short studies, I already did a lot, but it's very short time in the body and in body biointegrity. I was listening to a guy. He asked, "How do we explain movement?" He's a puppeteer guy, and he asked, "But how do we explain movement? How can we explain the motion?" And then it came to my mind a specific question that I was fighting with, because they say, as Miguel mentioned, forget about the muscles. So muscles don't move the body. Muscles are not movers. And I was like, fuck, what? Okay, muscles are not movers. Okay, muscles. And I went with the mantra, muscles are not movers, to see if it made any sense. But it didn't make sense, because I was stuck in what I knew, in what I learned. And I made the question, can you explain me what is happening when I bend my arm at the elbow? How do I describe this action if muscles are not movers? Am I not going to describe the shortening of the biceps and the lengthening of the triceps? And it was Stephen Levin who answered me. And he said, no, there's a lot of things going before, during, and after, besides the shortening or lengthening of those two specific tissues that you're mentioning. So don't focus, as Miguel was saying, muscle action is being overrated. And there's a lot of things happening around a specific in-time motion that we are not considering. And we are going to see that in this course that we're going to study very specifically and in a scientific way. But for me, to try to understand these things, like these mantras, muscles are not movers, forget about muscles. Bones are not leverages, forget about the bone as leverages. Behavior is unpredictable. You cannot predict the behavior of the human structure when you move. So you cannot say that when you move from this one, you're connecting more to your dorsal and because these connects to the opening in for instance, in the lines of Thomas Myers dynamic trains, for example. So you cannot predict. All these mantras, these phrases that shake all my world, and I think everyone's world that is in exercise, in movement in general, everyone on earth has learned that muscles are movers. It's not only us who studied it. Everyone intuitively will know that, will say that. So to solve these mantras and to be able to go along in the study of biointegrity and understand the concepts and the talk. For instance, when we hear the question and answering and the examples in this course, where Leonid is observing human bodies in motion, and he's seeing, for me, the unseen. but it's there. But I cannot see it because it's so out of my lens, out of my perspective. It's out of my world. So first, I think we need to go through these while we study to come back to these mantras, big mantras, and to see if we can explain them. The moment I can write an essay and explain to you, muscles are not movers, then I get it. Maybe I cannot explain it exactly with the details, but I get a different perspective. Or behavior is not predictable, like, but I can explain it to you, then I can see behavior as not predictable. Say, Miguel, sorry.
Well, I would like to add something. It's not the truth, okay? But one of the things about the muscle not movers that helped me a lot to just, okay, this makes sense for me, and let's give this away. And it was a starting point, a very good starting point for, in my opinion, was when I read the book of What the Foot of Gary Ward, and I attended all the courses they have online at the moment. And even I had some conversations with Chris, who is one of his collaborators. And one of the things they say, I'm gonna say it in just simple ways. It's, okay, muscles, bones act, muscles react. And for me, that makes a lot of sense, okay? So there is an action, there is a movement, and there's a reaction to maintain the form, maintain the shape, even to bring the body back to its base of support. That's the big window they open to me. So, and from that they had a lot of things. So starting to say to analyze this in this way and collaborating with the rest of the course I attended of Liam and Mariana. In fact, muscles, they have a very big delay of action. So that's knowledge that is known, okay? So when we move or we try to take an action to do something, there is always a trying of the muscles to react, to maintain the form and to rebound, to bring back. Okay, so if I move far away too much from my base of support, I change position. If I don't, there is a reaction to bring me back. Okay, that enlightened me a lot and helped me a lot in this field. And another thing about the unpredictability was this. Well, the outcome, the explicit things, even words or actions, are one result of a very big implicit amount of options. They don't realize as an outcome. So it's implied a lot of things are implied too, but only one of them is explicit. So okay, unpredictably for me it's like that. So the reaction of the body is one of so many possibles. Okay, and okay, that helped me a lot on those two mantras. I don't know if it helps you or not, but try to think about it. This is a very simple way of talking about this, and because all these things we absorb and we interact, well, they are very difficult to put in words. Even more in our second language. So that's a very even harder exercise.
Can I add something to what you said?
Of course you can.
That is bothering me now, as muscles are not movers, is not bothering that much.
Okay.
They say to understand biotensegrity, really understand, that's what they say. You need to forget of muscles are strings and bones are
of course
truss, bones are the compressors, and muscles and tendons are the tensors.
Ah.
To understand biotensegrity, you need to forget about that very simplistic view of how things work.
Yeah, and that was my first step. Now with this, and Frida probably is going to attend the course, and everything's going to be, what? How can this guy explain this so much? And when Leonard talks about this dynamic behavior that is so avid, talks about it, everything makes a lot of sense, really, in fact. So step by step, we are constructing again our understanding and our vocabulary and even our experiments. And I think we are on the right track.
I'm
Can
sure.
I
Say.
add something? One thing that is that Carol was mentioning a lot in her course is the unlearning, and I think it's an important part of it to let go of some things, because in a way, like, nothing, we haven't wasted time. I think I like to believe that we're exactly where we need to be in different moments. So we learn from everything, and we can kind of use our background as we continue on our path, and usually you can look back and connect the dots. But the unlearning is probably important to not feel like you have to use everything you've learned up until now and like add on to that, because it's so many layers of like learning something new or having things like flipped around, like that muscles are not movers. And then we try to understand that, but we kind of use our old conventions and toolbox maybe to try to see this new thing and try to make it fit in those old boxes. So sometimes that unlearning is feels a little weird and maybe a little difficult to take on, but it's important. And I wanted to say something more. Yeah, I lost it now. It will come back.
Let me just say what can remind that for me, that unlearning needs another, because what I learn, it's my anchor. It's where I'm anchoring my practice and my behavior. I need to have another anchor to let go this one. So before I forget about muscles are movers, I needed to answer to someone else and to explain why I can say now anchors, muscles are not movers. So I can throw away my anchor of muscles are movers because I can explain it in another way. Otherwise, I will always stick to my my ground because I need the ground to stay.
Yeah, that's kind of what I mean. I understand what you're saying, and hopefully the feeling can help us with that. When we say, okay, but this makes sense, I can feel this, then maybe we can start to build get like a new anchor.
Yes, I think we have a big advantage because we build our practice on sensing.
Yeah,
we already do it. You, Frida, we already dive ourselves in sensing for the sake of sense. Why are we sensing? Because we can, and the more we sense, the more we perceive the world through sensing. And then what we learn, how the world is made up. and how it functions. If it meets, if it fits in what we sense, we can accept it and understand it. And we can even say, yes, muscles are not movers, because this other explanation fits more in my felt sense. But we need to, for me, we need the sensing part to be present. Otherwise, this will be just an intellectual thing, exercise, and that's not the point, I think. Good. Okay, so next time, you want to say something before we depart?
Me?
Or you, or Frida? Any of you?
Not quite.
It's been very nice talking to you guys. I feel like this has a lot of potential. We can learn a lot from each other and
Yes.
boost each other in the explorations. And
I think we'll sorry. Say.
no, go ahead.
No, that will stick to once a month, these meetings, because it's tough for us to take all this time. So once a month, I will schedule in a month, more or less, another Thursday at the same time. We try to stick to 1 hour and a half. And if there's another model of presenting the thing that you think it's better, like imagine that one of us makes a kind of a PowerPoint resume of what we read to make it easy for us to talk about. You agree that would be easier?
Probably.
Or you think that we can go on as we are now?
I like this way, honestly. I like it to be a little bit of unpredictable.
Okay, good.
Yeah, I think it's okay like this. And then if someone has something they want to
Show, yeah.
show or present like that, and we can talk around that. But it seems like this also works well. There will always be things to discuss and talk about.
Yeah.
Great. Then shall we have the other chapters from Tensegrity, which is what is a bodywork therapy and load distribution. It's the other two videos, it's very dense, the content there.
You want to talk about it now or next?
Next, because now we are going to
End it. Okay.
Is it okay?
Sounds good.
Okay. Thank you very, very, very much.
Well, thank you, Nuno, because someone has to lead the way.
If you have other people that you think they would like to come into the discussion and they speak English, bring them in. Yes.
Teresa will join, right?
Everyone can join.
Teresa will join.
Yes, for sure. Teresa will join for sure. Yes. Okay.
Bye, Frida. Bye, Nuno.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Thank you.